You're getting a window into our world that is so much more entertaining than you would ever imagine a Pakistani community to be. I think they expect us all to be in a mosque and building bombs. That's not the case at all.
Right. On this show, you're in a deli.
Arranging to kill people.
Right.
That's right. But with guns and knives, not bombs. We
Exactly.
don't know how to do that.
Welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Mary Elizabeth Williams, and this very dapper gentleman beside me is Tan France. He is a designer, an entrepreneur, a documentarian, a fashion icon, and now an actor, Tan.
That's
you
right.
know him, of course, as one of the Fab Five from the multi-Emmy winning Queer Eye, but now you're going to get to see a completely different side of him on the new, very dark Hulu comedy, Deli Boys. Hi, Tan.
Hello.
Okay, let's talk about this show. Let's talk about this wild, wild show. You come in like halfway through the season. Tell me about you. But you do get called dapper. You're very different in many ways.
Very.
Your character, but still dressed to the nines.
However.
Okay.
I don't know how much time I've got for this answer, but I'm going to give you it all. The outfit, so there's a wardrobe designer, a costume designer on the show who's wonderful. She was quite nervous when I was coming in because I do this for a living also. And she was like, I'm really worried. I want to make sure you're happy. And I was like, it's not about me. I'm not playing myself. I'm playing a guy called Zubair. So she said, okay, great. That makes it easier. Here are the looks we've got for you. I put the look on. I was like, yes, it's very nice for a straight man. This is the look we should go for. I personally hate it. But for a straight man, this suit is perfect. It is very dapper for a straight man, but it couldn't be more boring for Tan France.
And you're doing an accent. I feel like, I don't know if all Americans would get that you are doing work. You are doing an accent, and of course you are committing incredible violence.
Yes.
So fun.
So fun.
So fun to watch you just absolutely kicking ass.
Thanks.
So what was the biggest challenge in this? Is it doing your EastEnders accent? Is it beating someone up? What is the challenge? Is it just being in Philadelphia? What is it?
So actually the show's shot in Chicago, but we're pretending it's Philly. There was so much that was difficult. So it's not natural for me to be on a scripted set. I've become so used to being on an unscripted set where I just get to be myself. I say what I want. Even when I'm doing Next in Fashion, there's a script, but it's me. I work on the script with them to make sure it's my voice. The hard thing with this is that it's not just that I'm playing a different role. It's a character actor's job, which means, as you said, my accent's different, but my voice is different. The way I move is different. Nothing about Zubair should be identifiable as Tan France. And I would like to believe that we achieved that. But the hardest part wasn't necessarily the accent. I would never suggest I'm method because I'm not that kind of an actor. This is my first acting role. But I did try and stay with the accent the entire time I was on set and even a few days beforehand. And it's a Cockney accent. The hardest part was really trying to pretend to be straight. It doesn't come naturally. I tried for 17 years of my life and I was really good at it. And then finally at 17, I was like, okay, I can be free. I am who I naturally am, which is a lot swishier. And now it's funny to play a straight person again.
Playing it straight. But you've been taking acting lessons. You've been stealth preparing for this for years, Tan.
I have. I didn't ever expect to do an acting job ever. I was taking acting classes to make me feel more comfortable, not necessarily on camera on Queer Eye, but like doing talk shows. Late night shows are intimidating, quite honestly. And so when I first got the job, my agent suggested taking an acting class that might make me feel more comfortable on set. And it did. And I never thought that I would use that for anything other than to build confidence. And then this audition came along for Zubair on Deli Boys. And I wanted to make sure that I gave it everything. And so I tried it as self-tape. I auditioned 4 times for this job. And my acting lessons, I think, really came in handy because I felt relatively comfortable doing it. I mean, I did vomit before my final audition, which was in front of people, like the director, the producers, and I couldn't believe that I was having to do a live audition. I've not auditioned for anything in 8 years. And so it was a very odd feeling to audition.
Just did a little puke and rally, and then you're good to go. You've been offered things in the past over the years.
That's right.
You auditioned for this 4 times. You wanted this.
I really wanted this.
Why did you want this?
I saw the outline of the show, and I just thought whoever created this, Abdullah Saeed, was so brazen in wanting to, and so brave in wanting to depict a South Asian family this way, or a South Asian community this way. We've worked so hard over decades to work against this stereotype, which is violence and crime, and just show that, no, we are just like everybody else. We live normal lives, we've got normal jobs. And Purna Jaganathan, the main female lead on the show, she says something really funny, which is, we're just trying to show that we're not just terrorists, we can also be drug dealers and killers. And I'm like, that's actually really funny that somebody just leaned into that. Why not? We can do everything, including crime. And so I read this outline, I just thought, this is profound what they're trying to do. And then they sent me the script of Zubair, and I loved that he was nothing like me, and that it was going to be real work, a real challenge. And then being on set, I was just blown away by how incredible this show is. And if you've had an opportunity to see any of it, it's so unexpected, it's so dark, but it's so funny. The cast is incredible. I'm so glad I waited for this.
It's so, I've been telling people it's like Coen Brothers, Tarantino, but in this unique world. And the word you use that I love is profound.
Yeah.
Because it is very funny, it's very violent, but it is also about something.
Yeah.
It's about casual racism.
Yeah.
It's about code switching.
Yes.
It's about people having conversations about things that they don't always say in front of white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about, because you know what that feels like in many different regards. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that, what your experience has been like growing up, because you say you represent so many different marginalized communities.
Yeah.
You're growing up in Yorkshire. What do you experience?
So I haven't lived in England for a very long time, so thankfully this experience is old. When I was living in England, life was not like what it is like here. And I'm not talking about the fame part of it, I'm talking about just everyday life. In England, there are pockets of South Asian communities in small towns. And when you're one of a very few people within a community of white people, they're not always the most welcoming. And so from a very young age, from actually my earliest memories, were that we are unsafe in this community. So we run to school, we run home from school. We don't just hang around in public. We're never just strolling and enjoying the day. You get to where you need to get to and make sure you get there safely. And so when you learn that basically at day 0, that puts you in a really weird mind frame, and you realize that that safety is such a luxury for everybody around you, but not something that you get to benefit from. And that's a weird thing to teach a child. And so I always knew that England wasn't going to be my home. I learned to code switch very early on. At home, I'm very Pakistani. Even now, I'm very Pakistani. We didn't watch a lot of Western television. We spoke Urdu. We ate our own culture's food. And then I'd go to school. My parents made it very clear, you don't speak with an accent, you must learn to have a generic English accent. If we hear you using local words, we're going to correct you. We need you to seem like an average British person. And so you are constantly reminded that you must code switch at every turn. But it was great training. It put me in a position to be able to navigate any situation I'm in. And so the move to America and then getting into entertainment, I thought, I know how to do this. I know how to fit in with any group I'm in.
And at the same time, in your own family, in your own community, you're also code switching because you're not you're queer. You're not telling them that for a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was destined to act in some way because I've been acting my entire life, whether it be out on the street or in my own home. And I didn't come out to a lot of my family until after Queer Eye, well, actually not after Queer Eye came out, just before Queer Eye came out, and then everyone in the extended family found out once the show dropped. Some of my immediate family knew since I was 16, 17. But in our community, no one talks about that. And so coming out is not just coming out as if you guys had to come out to your community. It's educating them on this is what gay means. Like they have my family had no concept of what that meant because nobody is like that in our community as far as they were concerned. But what they don't realize is no one's out because they understand the pressure of coming out. And it is massively overwhelming. I can't quite articulate how hard it is to be a queer person coming out to a Muslim brown family and then having to do it over and over again and then doing it very publicly.
Yeah, as a friend of mine says, the thing about coming out is you do it your whole life. You do it
your whole life. And then as an entertainer, and I'm not suggesting that anyone forced me to do this. I chose to do this and I'm the luckiest person in the world. But that also comes with the expectation that you have to be the perfect version of everything. And so the pressure on me, I think, is very different from all my castmates, especially on Queer Eye. They all got to experience the joy of fame as soon as the show came out. Instead, mine was fear. And that's how I navigated my first couple of years, is just making sure I was safe.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because we are in a very fearful moment in our country right now. The first season of the show was the first year of the Trump administration. Here we are again, 2.1. It feels very, very different this time.
Very different.
And all our lives are different. You are a parent now. What are you feeling as an immigrant, as a child of immigrants, as a queer person, as a Muslim, as a gay man? I mean, there's a lot going on there, Tan.
Yeah.
And I wonder what you're feeling and when you look at your sons, what you're thinking about the country you're building for them.
Quite honestly, and this is such a luxury and a privilege, and everyone out there will say ignorant, I can't handle what's happening in our country right now. I hear about it through my husband, who looks at the news all day. I've tried to bury my head in the sand, which I know is not the way, but I just think there's nothing I can do. I've tried over the last 4 years, even before Trump got into office, I tried to articulate what was about to happen. And clearly it fell on deaf ears. And so I just think there's nothing I can do. All I can do is protect my own mental well-being throughout this, because it does affect so many of the things that I represent, and I can't process how that feels. And so I've tried to avoid it. And there's nothing I can do at this point. I just think we've led ourselves to this, not the left, but the right. And I just think it's going to affect us all. And you guys have to do something about it now. I'm sick of having to be the one that's fighting. And actually, Cramo and other people, others on our show have mentioned that we're sick of always having to apologize for all of this, or fight for all of this, or explain who we are, or pushing for people to see us as humans and to see our humanity. I want other people to do that now. Other people with the great privilege of not representing marginalized groups. I want them to become allies, and for them to start to say, they don't need to fight for themselves anymore. They're sick of fighting. It's our responsibility.
And when you talk about that allyship, you live in Utah. You have said you feel safer there in a community that is not particularly diverse than you would living anywhere else.
Literally anywhere else.
That is, I mean, that's a leap. As someone who lives in a city, that's hard for me to get my head around.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Salt Lake?
Airport. I'll tell you, the bars are packed at every hour of the day. It's your last chance before you get into town. What is it about that environment? Because I think a lot of us who live in our bubbles here think that we're safer here.
Yeah, it's so funny whenever I tell someone. People always assume I live in LA or New York, because you can't possibly come from England and then move to Utah. However, Utah for me has been amazing. For many people that may not be the case, but for me personally, I've only ever experienced love and acceptance in Utah, even before I became Tan France, the Tan France that the world knows. I feel safe because the Mormon community, even if people aren't Mormon, they've encouraged an environment where even if they think something negative, they're most likely not going to say it. I've never had anyone say anything inappropriate to me on the street, anything racist or homophobic, and I can't imagine a world where that could ever happen. That's much more likely going to happen, or much more likely to happen in a larger city. And so for me, it's the safest place. Also, our crime rate's so low there. It's just an easier place to live. But also, I want to make it really clear, the reason why I live in Utah, not only do I think Salt Lake is beautiful, after Queer Eye came out, it would have been so easy to move to LA and New York. That's where the work is. Instead, I travel every week for work. This is just my job. This is not my life. And I'm the luckiest person in the world to get to do this as a job, but I've never conflated life with work. And so I do my job, I go home, I don't live a famous life. Will never see me stumbling out of a party or an award show. I do 2 of those a year. I have a couple of weeks in LA a year where I will do the parties. Other than that, I'm just a person who does this very weird job for a living.
And when you talk about, and yet there is always, like, our worlds do always bleed into each other.
Yeah.
And when you talk about community, you have a community now because of this show. Now, I've heard you say that you tried out for this show. Your husband encouraged you because you didn't have enough gay friends. You didn't
have enough gay friends. Yeah.
So how has that changed now? It's 7 years later, I believe.
No,
7.
We started shooting 8.5 years ago.
8 years later. It's 8 years later. What's changed for you in terms of that community of gay male friends?
I mean, obviously I have my castmates who I love, and they are the people that I actually hang out with, which is so nice. So that's lovely having community in that regard. Also, they've taught me so much about what it is to be a member of the queer community. I've learned so much from them. So that's really opened my eyes to the world. But it's not just that. Being on Deli Boys has given me another community. Again, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. There aren't that many South Asians. Being on Deli Boys now, even though I was only there for a week, I became so close with every one of the cast members where I now go to events with them. Born as my date to this event and that event. I took Saga as my date to an Emmys event. So they've become my community also. And the greatest joy of being on Queer Eye and now Deli Boys is the celebration of that community. You don't get many shows. I've been on many at this point. You don't get to be on shows very often where these marginalized groups are the focus. They are the ones we're celebrating. They're the ones we're championing. And it's not necessarily about what they represent. It's just they are great humans who just so happen to be that thing. And I've said this about Deli Boys before, where you could, if it was an all-white cast, it's still a damn good show. But the fact that it's so specifically South Asian, I think makes it even more appealing globally, because you're getting into a window into our world that is so much more entertaining than you would ever imagine a Pakistani community to be. I think they expect us all to be in a mosque and building bombs. That's not the case at all.
Right. On this show, you're in a deli.
Arranging to kill people.
Right.
That's right. But with guns and knives, not bombs. We
Exactly.
don't have to do that.
Running cocaine. It's like it's completely different.
Yes.
I want to ask, because your whole thing is how we dress, how we look. Does that turn off? I want to know. Like when you're walking
Always.
down the street, are you just like this one's got it, this one looks amazing, or are you just it's like, do you just like, does the meter go off and you're just...
It's a thing I'm hired for on Unscripted, but to be quite frank, I don't really care what anyone's wearing. Unless they ask me and they want help, it comes so easily to me that I'm always willing to say, yeah, let me give you some advice. But I'm so focused, this is so arrogant or narcissistic, but I'm so focused on what I'm wearing because it's my job, and therefore people will have an opinion on what I'm wearing. But for the average Joe on the street, I just think, well, what makes you happy? Be comfortable as long as you're happy. If you're not happy in what you're wearing, ask my advice. But if you feel good in what you're wearing, that's all that matters.
And people do have opinions about you.
Always.
You cut your hair.
I did.
You cut your hair tan. I mean, I love it either way.
Thank you.
But that was, I heard that was based on feedback.
It was.
From the fans.
No, from many. So I had really tried hard to not look at comments online for about 7 years, 6.5 years. But then we have a new cast member on Queer Eye. His name's Jeremiah Brent. And I wanted to know how the audience was receiving this new version of Queer Eye. And so I looked online. And there were so many comments about how much people hated my hair and how it made me just seem so unapproachable and pretentious. And I just thought, gosh, I would like to believe I'm so affable and I'm playful. I'm not a very serious person typically. And on the show, if you were to meet any of my castmates, they'll tell you how annoyingly peppy I am. I'm usually in a very good mood. Much to many of their dismay. Much of the dismay on the show is calm down, Tan. Be more serious. And so I thought, oh, well, let's give a different look a try. I wanted to cut my hair for a long time, but always avoided it, thinking I've had this look for almost 20 years. How would that be received? And I was so anxious about cutting it. And I cut it, and then I was even more anxious about the world seeing it. And so I posted about it at the start of the year. And thankfully, people were so kind. They were like, oh, finally, he's chilled out.
It's either way.
It's so funny.
Either way, it's good. All right, I'm going to be selfish because I have a very selfish last question here. As a former Philly girl, this show takes place in Philly. I know you've been to Philly recently.
Yeah.
It takes place in a deli.
It does.
What's your favorite Philly treat?
It may not be a specifically Philly treat because I don't have one in mind, but can I give you a restaurant?
You can, of course.
2?
As many as you want, Tan. It's your time.
My 2 favorite restaurants that I practically lived in whilst I was in Philly, Little Nona's. All the food was amazing. The savory food was amazing. Yet their tiramisu was the best I've ever had in my life, and I love a good tiramisu. And then second, but arguably the first, is Zahav. Zahav is, I think they have multiple Michelin stars, maybe they only have 1. It's the best meal I've ever had anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, Zahav.
Philly will sneak up on you. It's a real food town. Plus, tasty cakes are good too, though.
I don't know what that is.
And you're on a show called Deli Boys. It's just a pre-packaged, like Drake's cakes or anything like that, or Yodels, but they're very Philly specific and they're extremely delicious.
Okay, here's the thing. I am a very keen baker. Very, very keen baker. It's very rare I will go for a pre-packaged baked good. I always want something freshly made and from like a mom and pop style situation.
All right. I'm a baker too. All right. I bake too, Tan. I bake all the time. Okay. But I
want the Great British Baking Show. Okay. What do you got?
All right. I can't flaunt that, but I bake too, and I will. I'm going to be in Philly in 2 weeks, and you better believe I'm coming back.
Tasty cake.
With my tasty cakes.
Okay. I'm there a lot. I will try it. But my husband was obsessed with. It's this is it called Little Debbie's? And everyone I knew about it, and I tried it, and I was like, that's a packaged thing. Okay. It's so obviously like, I want fresh, I want moist, but not oily moist. I want like heaven on a plate. I'm really particular about calories. I don't count my calories, but I just think, what a waste. If I take a bite of something and it's not gorgeous, I won't eat the rest. I just think, I don't want to waste my calories on something that's subpar. I want heaven. Okay. Food is really important to me.
You know what? That's what I love about you. And next time you're in town, you get yourself a cheesecake, and then we can have the Pats or Gino. We can have the Pats or Geno's debate. Oh, there is a right answer.
Oh wait, the Pats or Geno's. Philly cheesesteak. Uh-huh. I don't eat meat.
Oh, okay.
I know. Sorry.
But you can get a vegetarian cheesesteak.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's the 21st century.
Okay.
You don't have to
Pats and Geno's?
Yeah. You don't have to get steak on.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Next
Good
time.
to know.
San Fran. In the meantime, Deli Boys. It's really fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Salon Talks. If you had a good time, why not subscribe right over here so you can get more conversations with your favorite artists, actors, directors, writers, comedians, musicians, politicians, everybody you love, and I love too. And while you're here, why not watch another video right now?